Aloha everyone and welcome to another Tinkers Academy video. I'm your host Kay Elmer, and this video is another installment in the video series Benefits of Quantum Healing, where I have been documenting the studies that have been commissioned by Leela Quantum Tech on the effects of quantum energy on various biological systems. This particular video will cover two studies that have been conducted by the BESA Institute on the Vaxx. Now, just want to share with you who the principal investigators are. It's Wolfgang Hans Albrecht and Eva Kranke. Now, they are the proprietary clinicians and owner-operators of what is officially called the International Association for Bioenergetic Systems Analysis, referred to as the BESA Institute, and they're located in Austria. They are Europe's largest company that does bioenergetic analysis testing on numerous different products in various different industries. Now, if you'd like to learn more about the BESA Institute, I have a separate 14-minute video that I'll put a link in the video description below that talks in depth about who the BESA Institute is, as well as the process of what bioenergetic analysis is. It's 14 minutes, and I'll just leave it out of this video if you want to learn more about how they do what they do and the science behind it. I'll link that video in the description. Now, I just want to point out, though, that in the United States, this process is also known as meridian stress assessment and also known as Deca-Volt electroacupuncture diagnostics. And I just want to stipulate very quickly that it is completely science-based, evaluating the flow of energy through our bodies and the energetic state of our various organs and the health of our bodies. And it's all been completely validated, cross-referenced against academia science, and there's a lot to it. So feel free to watch this video to further understand how that process was developed. Now, the first study I want to talk about is the study on the DNA and cell protection frequency. At the end of the day, quantum healing is several things. It's quantum energy as it relates to biological systems, but it's also frequency medicine. That's another term that's used, and it's in which the frequencies, which are the foundation of everything. Tesla once said, if you want to understand the universe, then look into vibration, frequency, and energy. And that's par for the course here in the world of quantum healing, is that there is a profound effect of frequency and vibration in biological living systems. It's all science if you want to look into it. Now, what had happened was back in 2020, if you remember those wonderful years, the Leela Quantum Tech and all of the energy workers and healers of the planet rushed to do what they could do to help people from their perspective on that had either been had caught the disease at the time and or further along in that year had subjected themselves to the Vaxx. And so these healers had come up with a frequency that was meant to help alleviate the biological effects from an energetic standpoint from those two stimulus. I guess I'll just leave it at that. Now, how it's described on the Leela Q website is that this frequency, called the DNA and cell protector frequency, is a carefully crafted combination of frequencies that can help protect your cells from outside stressors, toxins, and other harmful influences. This frequency is designed to strengthen your body's systems energetically so you can stay vigorous. The primary benefit of using this frequency may be that it helps keep your cells in peak condition. It may activate the cell's awareness and improves overall well-being by creating an invisible energy field around you that protects against negative influences of any foreign harmful substances. So the study that the BESA Institute had conducted was incredibly detailed, took a very long time, and I'm going to try to summarize over 200 pages of 4 different studies that were conducted to the best of my ability and keep it short for this video. So now this particular study was what BESA just refers to as Project P74, okay? And it was a study of the DNA and cell protection frequency against specific individuals and specific, I guess the best way to say it is specific components of the Vaxx that also is represented in the disease had you caught it. had you have caught in it. Okay? Now, the aim of this test was to prove the functionality of the Leela quantum DNA and cell protector card by test results obtained by confronting test subjects with stress factors from modern so-called mRNA vaccines in order to significantly prove and compare the reactions without the test object and with the test object, the object being this card here. Now, this card has the frequency in it, okay? Now, subjects were sometimes exposed to and tested with the stress factors in several before measurements and were exposed to and tested with the Leela quantum DNA and cell protector card in addition to the stress factors in the after measurement. So in a nutshell, the test procedure was they had gathered together different individuals who had been vaccinated and unvaccinated. They tested them bioenergetically using what I'd referred to before, meridian stress assessments, Decavol, electroacupuncture, diagnostics, etc. Okay, so they used their tools. These clinicians had evaluated what they call the respondents, also known as test subjects, before went like right off the street, and then exposed them to these stressors. Okay, and then evaluated them during and then after. So it was a before, during, and after, and they took measurements along the way. And so now the 4 different studies that were specifically conducted were detailed in these 4 specific, numbering groups. So the study was P74, and then 1.0 dealt with the effectiveness of the I'll just call it the DNA frequency against various mRNA ingredients. All right. Now the second one was P7420, which dealt with the efficacy of the Leela quantum DNA frequency against stress factors caused by the mRNA vaccine. Now, the third study that was done was P7430, which dealt with the efficacy of the Leela quantum frequency for DNA against spike proteins, viral fragments, and graphene oxide. Now, the fourth one was P744.0, dealt with the efficacy of the Leela DNA frequency against spike proteins and virus fragments. So it was a very large test, took a very long time, and there, like I said, it's over 200 pages of data that had been put together in these 5 reports. Okay, there's an executive summary here, and there's 4 separate reports that detailed each one of those specific studies that they had conducted to see if this frequency would help alleviate the stress on our bodies from an energetic standpoint, which ties to the stressors on our organs and our bodies overall. So now the respondents that were used in the study, there was 7 respondents that were used. Now there were 4 that had been vaccinated and 3 that were not. Okay, sorry, there's 4 that were unvaccinated and 3 that were vaccinated. I'm sorry. And they were all different ages and different genders. When there's one that there was no gender stipulated, but they were all basically tested. The first 3 one was unvaccinated, then there was 2 individuals that were vaccinated. There were 3 that were unvaccinated that were tested for spike proteins and viral fragments, and then there was an 80-year-old individual that was tested who had gotten 2 of them, 2 of the vaxes, and they were tested for the effect of the test object, the card, against their spike proteins, virus fragments, and graphene oxide. So that was the general idea, where you took 7 people, some were vaccinated, some were not, tested them before, and then during and after. Now the during part, though, I just want to stipulate, was done digitally. So they had basically taken the frequency of these stressors and exposed these individuals to the frequency of spike proteins, virus fragments, graphene oxide, so forth, to see what the frequency of these stressors would do to these individuals, because obviously they weren't going to give the vax to people who are unvaccinated on purpose to see what would happen. That's not the test. What they would do is they call it a digitized, the digitized spike proteins, or they call it digitized virus fragments in the studies, to say, look, we took a person who was, quote, unvaccinated, and we exposed them to the frequency of these stressors, right? And then we evaluated what happened to them bioenergetically while they were being exposed to that. And then we gave them the DNA card to hold on to, and then see what happens. And the results are just remarkable and kind of unbelievable how well it worked out for them. So now just real quick understanding of how to interpret that results because and I just, like I said, it's 200 pages. So I'm trying to summarize. So I'm just going to go with their color coding of their results for ease of understanding. So the idea here is that they would use their device. They would analyze 60 different meridians of the human body. Each one of the meridians would tie to a specific organ, and then all the results were color coded. Where basically what I want to point out is that green, it just means you're in perfect healthy state. Blue means that you're having it's your body and your organs are in a degenerative state. That means they're being affected and they're being damaged. And then red would mean that it is damaged, right? So there's the doing really super well. Green, blue means you're in danger. You're under, you're being, your body's being assaulted by, something that's negative for you. And then red means that, it's you're past that point of being assaulted. You're now damaged. So I just want to point out, essentially, green good, blue bad, red really bad. Okay. So the very first one now, which was P7410, where they looked at the effectiveness of the DNA card against the mRNA ingredients. And so kind of give you just a real simple overview of the findings was blue is bad, right? Green is good. They walk in the door and blue is bad. Now, I want to point out something about these studies, and I've read all of the BESA studies, and I've done all these videos on the studies, and I want to point out something that I think is so important to everybody, is to realize that every single respondent on every single study, and there's over 60 studies now, where they take a look at a person who's just off the street. That's any one of us, right? Off the street. And we are immediately, and I mean, not immediately, but we are at that point without anything happening, where already most of us are under a tremendous stress load from the environment. And that environment, as you know, is food, water, air. All of it's got chemicals and toxins and stuff in it now. And then also to the EMF. We live in this EMF electro smog, and there's this massive assault by our environment now on our bodies, and then all of us are registering as pretty much in the stress mode constantly at all times. So they take the respondents, they take a look at these individuals, and they find that, hey, you know what? This is their profile. Green is good, blue is bad. Now, once they basically expose the individuals to the mRNA ingredients, then you can see right here that they're immediately registering that the organs and the body's meridian systems are now under assault and being damaged. They are damaged at this point. Blue is stress. Red is you're being damaged. There's damage happening. And then after they actually are then given the DNA card to hold, these individuals will hold on to the card. And after 2 minutes, okay, this is the conclusion. After 2 minutes of inserting the card into the measuring circuit, which has been, exposed the individual to it, then it just immediately goes to all healthy. So, in terms of just 100% reversal of all of these stressors bioenergetically now, okay, and it immediately took the stress off of their bodies when they were holding the cards. Now, these are this mRNA ingredients. Now, the second test is P742.0, where again they're evaluating the frequency card, and this time they're looking at the actual stress cause factors by the mRNA vaccine itself. Again, the before picture of these individuals that day. Now, this happened over a long period of time, so on different days they would come in. So now the overall group on this particular day was not doing quite well. They're 97% blue. They measured them now at this point during the exposure to the vaccine frequency, and at that point, they were just basically just still stayed in the blue, but then some of their readings, different organs. Remember, there's 60 different readings, 60 different meridian and different organs. The 7% were starting to show damage. And then again, now after 2 minutes, they were they were basically exposed to the DNA frequency and immediately went to a positive state, meaning no stress. It took all of that stress off of their bodies when this study was conducted, P742.0. Now, for P7430 and 40, they're extremely complicated. I'm just going to jump over to the study to kind of walk you through it. So these are the 5 different write-ups that are here. Now, this is the 3.0 study, and that study, again, I want to point out, is they studied the effect of the frequency against the spike proteins, viral fragments, and graphene oxide. Okay, so now the test procedures I do want to point out was that they had the before. They're doing the before, meaning before they were exposed to it. I'm calling it during. Okay, so there's a before, and then there's a during. And here are their questions that they wanted to find out. Was first step, take a reading of the person when they walked in the door. The second was they brought them into contact with the listed digitized spike proteins and tested. Now the questions are that they wanted to know was, how does the meridian system react? How does the energetic status change when confronted with these stress factors? And what are the differences compared to the BESA 1 basic test and before? And that was the basic, was like I had said, basically, they want to know, hey, what happens, when you're exposed to this stuff? And what happens when you're holding that card? So I'm just going to jump now here. Here's all the data. I mean, there's so much data. This one particular report is 63 pages. I'm just going to jump to the very bottom here, where they go over the overall findings of the different respondents. And so I want to point out here, this is the before. They walk in the door. Respondent 1, this person's unvaccinated. They expose them to their spike proteins. You can see where they're pretty much still not in a good shape. They're blue. Blue's bad. Their amount of green is less, so they're less. It's definitely taking an effect. And then even more so, even once they expose them to the virus fragment frequency, then they're now doing less. They're basically getting worse. And then the moment that they hold onto that card, it goes all away. All of the negative stressors go away. Now, I want to point out that the stressors are still there in the test, right? They basically are continuing to send that frequency of all of these different stressors, which show that they're causing, basically stress to the energetics of their body and their organs. But the moment that they're holding that card, even with the stressors still activated, the stress on their bodies immediately changes and eliminates completely, 100% in the green. So that's repeated here with respondent 2. Again, same situation, just different reactions because it's different people. And again, here's respondent 3, where you see the moment that they hold on to the card, even though they're under the effects, right, frequency-wise, bioenergetically wise, they're under the stress of these, spike proteins and graphene oxide and so forth. The moment they're holding that card and they're within the field of that frequency, they immediately go to green, which means that they immediately switch over and all of those stressors are alleviated. Now, the fourth one, which is P7440, was again, they did it again. They wanted to keep doing the test over and over to make sure that their findings were, consistent. So they did it again against spike proteins and virus fragments. So we go over to number 4 here. Again, this is the test procedure for study 4. The same kind of questions is basically take a look at them, but when they walk in the door, and then what I'm calling the during, which is the subject is contacted and tested with the listed digitized spike proteins and virus fragments. And the questions is how does the meridian system react? How does the energetic status change when confronted with the stress factors? And again, what are the differences before and after? So again, with test number 4, I want to just jump to the bottom here and kind of just give you the overall summary. I think I skipped it. Oh, there we go. And here we go. We get into this individual here, walk in the door, not doing well, then completely, the stressors cause even more stress. And then we see them with, there's some before and after improvements with this particular individual where, some of it started to turn green. And then once they have the card in hand, they're 100% green. And this is overall, this is for, the overall individuals. So this is kind of what I kind of wanted to convey. The studies are, like I said, it's 200 pages, a ton of data, but the overall result, was, as I have just stated, was under the influence of these stressors, whether you're vaccinated or unvaccinated, you're being affected by all of these, agents that are now in our environment. And this frequency showed on multiple tests, different studies, different ways to look at it. It showed every single time, 100% consistency, that having this frequency alleviated the stress of the Vaxx on your biological systems from an energetic standpoint. And that is a remarkable finding, and it completely validates the claim for this frequency in terms of how it helps you. Now, again, I want to stipulate energetically, but also too, if you look at that video about the way that they, the process that they use, it also ties to the hard science of how well your body is functioning. So again, this is just a remarkable study that was done by the BESA Institute using the DNA and cell protection frequency by Leela Quantum Tech. Now, the second study I want to share with you today is a separate study that was done by the BESA Institute, and this project was labeled as P75. It was a study on the effect of the quantum upgrade service. Okay, so now there's the first study, which was an actual physical card, a metal card that held that frequency in the card. You could also make capsules out of it and so forth. But this study was using the quantum upgrade service, which is a quantum entanglement service that sends quantum energy to individuals. Now, this study was just a study on the effects of spike proteins by just getting quantum energy, no frequencies, okay? So by using just the quantum upgrade service, no frequencies, and subjecting individuals to the energy, okay? The aim of the study, which was consisted of corresponding detailed projects, again, was to demonstrate neutralizing or harmonizing effects of the test object, right? Which is the quantum upgrade service, the energy that's being sent to you, on test subjects. The main aim was to investigate the fundamental questions of whether that the field generated by quantum upgrade can have a regenerative effect on the apoptosis on the test subject. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. Whether biologically detrimental anomalies from the before microscopies and the effects of the stress factors presented can be neutralized in the period addressed, and whether the effect of the field from the quantum upgrade via the process of quantum entanglement is able to harmonize or improve a blood situation or blood alteration that may be detrimental to the health of the test subjects. So, what I want to stipulate here, this particular study, again, done by BESA, but instead of using the physical card, they used the quantum upgrade service. And instead of using bioenergetic analysis, they used blood microscopy. So they were actually using microscopes. They were studying the actual physical blood using microscopes to see what were the changes in the blood, okay, physically, and not energetically, but physically, when individuals were subjected to spike proteins. So now here's the thing that was real interesting. Now the respondents, there were 24 in this study. Now 12 were exposed to quantum upgrade and 12 were not. They were in the control group. The subscription that each one of these individuals had was the U subscription that you can get on quantum upgrade. The time of exposure was 10 days, right? So they would measure them. They measured all 24 individuals, and then 12 of them, after the measurement, they were, they had their quantum upgrade subscription turned on. So the use subscription, it was turned on for 10 days, and then they measured them again after the 10 days. Now, I've actually got the spreadsheet of all the data, and it's just really hard to read. But as I decipher the data, there were several different groups of the 12 that got exposed. In some groups, there's like 3 people got 3. Some got they had their settings turned to 600. Some had their settings turned to 1400 on their daytime settings, and their nighttime settings, some had 500, some had 900. Okay, so if you have a quantum upgrade subscription and you want to know, hey, what do I need to set it to get it, then just realize that the results came from different people, anywhere from 600 during the day or 1400 at night, and at nighttime 500 to 900. That's the settings you would put on the subscription, and that's what these individuals used or were told to use on their settings. Okay. Now the boosters, they actually did use boosters. It was once a day. Some people were doing it at 1100. Other people were doing it at 1800 boosters. So, but I think the point that I kind of want to stipulate here is that there's a minimum. Bottom line is quantum upgrade service by itself, if you just leave it at the minimum settings, then that's the results they got. Some of the people had them at minimum. Other people tried different settings. At the end of the day, it's quantum upgrade, use service, 10 days. And again, there was no frequencies used. So those were their settings. And here's the results of the study. Now, the before exposure to quantum upgrade, the microscopies of the vital blood of all test subjects showed more or less pronounced traces or modes of action on the spike proteins, approximately 30 to 360 minutes after the blood sample was taken. So they were showing, and that's kind of a scary thought, that we're all kind of exposed to this, whether we took a vax or not. We're all affected. Okay, that's a little nervous thought, but keep that in mind. Now, here's the thing with the quantum upgrade service, the after exposure, that the pronounced traces or modes of actions of the spike proteins could no longer be detected. All right. And only to a lesser extent in the test subject who were confronted with the test object in the after microscopies. So That is profound. Now, they did stipulate, and I want to really make sure there's a quantifying statement in the study by BESA that says we cannot recognize the spike proteins as such in a dark field microscope. However, based on observations from the electron microscope, we can detect or prove the traces of the mode of action of the spike proteins in the dark field microscopy of the vital blood. So what that means is that the spike proteins and individual actions of spike proteins on cells is so small that just using a regular dark field microscope will not you will not be able to see it. However, you can see the effect of spike proteins at that level of magnification. But so they did use an electron microscope to make sure that this is actually really happening. But they were going off of the effect of the spike protein, not the actual actions of the spike proteins. I know that's a little bit technical, but I think it's really important for us to understand the level of just testing that's being done and just how deep that they're looking into these things to kind of make these conclusions. So the summary of this report right here, it's a 2-page report, actually, it's quite short, was at the end of the day, we're all being affected by spike proteins. And when you are exposed to quantum energy just by itself, it can no longer be detected. That, in other words, the effect of spike proteins on your cells is no longer being detected once you're exposed to quantum upgrade. And that's the results of that study. Now, that kind of wraps up these 2 studies. And I do want to share with you one other thing. This just came out this week, and I was talking to Philip, the owner, proprietary, and founder of Leela Quantum Tech. And he was basically telling me that they are continuing to do studies. Even though there's more than 60, there are still a dozen more studies being commissioned and being worked on right now. Again, to analyze the effect of quantum energy and frequencies on various biological systems. Here's one that just came out. They were looking, and this has not been published yet, but I wanted to share it because it falls within the realm of this video, is that the clinicians at the BESA Institute, using dark field microscopy, were studying blood samples live, okay? And they were exposing the samples to quantum upgrade in a different experiment. Hopefully this will be written up and I'll be able to share it separately once this study's been done. But during this study, and this was shared with me and I want to share with you, that clinicians observing the blood samples discovered the exposure to quantum upgrade halted the formation of hydrogel during exposure, but continued to form when quantum upgrade was stopped. Okay, and that is another little, it's like another data point in this horrible situation that we're in, and how do we deal with it. But here is something that I thought was something so important to share with you, was that not only is there, the issue of graphene oxide and virus fragments and spike proteins, but any of you who understand what the Vaxx has done to us, there's this other issue called hydrogel. And what's amazing, this is what they discovered when they were watching it, was that when quantum upgrades turned on, the hydrogel doesn't form. It just stops. But when they turned off the quantum upgrade, it kept going. So while it's, the conclusions are yet to be, finalized, but that observation is very profound, incredibly remarkable about the effects of quantum upgrade, quantum energy on our bodies, against the exposure of all of these wonderful things that, quote, Trust the Science has benefit, or basically bestowed upon us as humanity. So there you go. That's the end of that. There's the 2 studies and the most recent observations done by the BESA Institute. I wanted to share this with you, and I hope this was educational and that you found some value in it. Thank you for watching this video. If you want to learn more about quantum healing, you can go to leilaq.com, which is the Leela Quantum Tech site, that's where the products are. That's where you can find that DNA frequency, and then you can go to quantumupgrade.io, and that's the quantum upgrade service, that's the one that sends energy to you through quantum upgrade. And then also you can find me at the Tinkers Academy. Just type in tinkers.academy in your URL window, and it goes to my blog, where I have the running series of videos on all the different studies, and it's under the caption of Benefits of Quantum Healing. There's many, many studies that have been done, and I've been documenting them for well over a year now. everything from EMF and so forth. So there you go. Thank you very much for watching this video, and have a great day. Aloha.